Welcome to the Rotary Times Show, a public service program presented by Rotary District 7610, Virginia. Funding for this program is made possible by the generosity of Rotary District 7610, Virginia. On our programs, we talk with Rotarians and community leaders and discuss Rotary International and how each level helps local, national, and world communities. I am your host, Dr. Deborah Jackson from the Rotary Club of McLean, Virginia. Today's program will celebrate District 7610 Governor Pat Borowski, who recently closed out her year as District Governor for the 2021-22 Rotary year. We are honored to have her here today to share her many accomplishments. Welcome, PDG Pat Borowski, to the Rotary Times home.
Oh, thank you, Deborah. It's wonderful being here.
Oh, it feels different because,
yeah.
For a year, we've always been here together shepherding the shows through. You as Rotarian, or Deborah as Pat, but as Deborah, but now you're past District Governor. How does that feel?
Well, still, a little bit of getting used to. Okay. I said at our installation event, you always leave wishing you had accomplished more, but such is the life of a term. I mean, it's the same thing for a club president.
Yes.
But the district has accomplished a lot.
Yes, and we're going to hear a lot about that today. But what I want to do is how you and I normally start our programs is helping our audience better understand the individual. So why don't you share with our viewing audience just some snippets of your Rotary experience that allowed you to become the district governor?
Well, this is actually my 10th year in Rotary. So actually the new Rotary year, I'm starting my 11th year, so that was kind of nice. Mm-hmm. I had all the club positions, as everybody else does, but I was in a club where we had a lot of people that were very active in the district level, mm-hmm.
Doing
a lot of different things. And so very early on, I was asked to assist them with district programs, for instance, in youth and other issues, the district conference. Mm-hmm. I was asked to come in and help with the silent auction and the House of Friendship, and so things kind of snowballed from there. I think as people began to recognize my professional background, is a trade association mm-hmm. senior executive, it had a lot of application to Rotary. So that led me invitation to the finance committee and et cetera, et cetera. And sure enough, one day somebody said, would you like to come in for an interview? We'd like to talk to you about your ideas for the future of the district. And so I said, sure. And they voted me in. And so when you do get, the thing that's really important, I think, for people to appreciate is when you do get that selection and you are made the district governor nominee designate, you immediately begin really a 3.5-year program
yes.
that of education and classes and Zooms and meetings that really do prepare you for the position of district governor, and you continue those programs through your district governorship. So.
But what you fail to say is, PDG Pat, you came to the position with the leadership attributes that one needs in order to take that next step. Because we all know it's easy to be tapped or to interview, but when you're tapped, which is a little different, as in your case, there are those leadership qualities that people have observed. So we're glad that you led us. We're glad that you were at the helm over this course of this year. So let's talk about some of that. Mm-hmm. What's your major, or what do you feel is the major role of the district governor?
Well, I'll tell you, I really started to think about that in the very beginning of these classes. And one of the most important questions I was asked, and it was actually prior to my DGE year, and that was, what do you want your Rotary legacy to be at the end of your DG year? I think that's an important question even for club leadership, because it begins to make you think more strategically with the time that is coming up. And in thinking about that, the first thing that came to my mind was that I wanted to create and be a part of creating a system that would be available to our broad Rotarians broadly, and be able to develop confident club leaders. Because without that, clubs really can't come together. They have difficulty growing. So if we develop a system for competent club leaders, then kind of the rest of the issues will begin to follow more successfully.
Absolutely.
And that really was a combination of, number one, bringing back and underscoring the importance of the Rotary Leadership Institute, coupled with a whole redesign of our pre-PETS program and our CPETS program.
Wonderful. So what was your vision for building a stronger Rotary district?
It begins with the Rotarians. You know, when COVID came in 2020, everybody was in a panic, and Rotary and goals and everything else, understandably, were left to the side. I think that past District Governor Jonathan Lucas, who was our governor at the time, did an excellent job through the use of monthly district Zooms and et cetera, to really at least grab people's attention and keep an eye on Rotary. And then in 2021, we were in the depths of COVID, and people now were struggling with, well, how do we do Zoom? How do we keep people together? I think District Governor at the time, Harry Henderson, had several events and outreaches, and in his outreach, a Zoom to the clubs was good. And during that year, that's when we introduced the redesign of the pre-PETS program, which for the first time in the history of the district was done virtually, and the CPETS program, which also for the first time in Rotary history was done virtually. And that had a lot of challenges, but terrific benefits. And it really allowed us to develop an esprit de corps amongst the incoming presidents, as well as all the other people in the district that we invited in, and allowed them to have a look-see in what the district is about, understanding Rotary more, and through those things, having better insights into what their own clubs can be capable of.
Absolutely. So PDG, what was your vision? What was your Rotary theme for your year?
Well, there were two things. Each year, the Rotary president chooses an internal theme for Rotarians, and of course, our outgoing president, Shekhar Mehtar, his theme was wonderful: serve to change lives. In so few words, he crystallized what the ethos of Rotary is really about. I had the privilege of seeing him back in Toronto and being very impressed. The second thing was, my own theme was, together we build tomorrow's Rotary. And that's key.
And it has been, and that has reverberated throughout the district in time. Your administration is part of, and you alluded to that a minute ago when you spoke about past District Governor Harry Henderson and past District Governor Jonathan Lucas's years. your year was also part of a 3-year planning process, strategic planning process amongst the DG line, okay? What do you believe were the 3 biggest changes in which your administration needed to engage in order to continue moving forward?
Well, the first thing was really reaching out with myself, the DGE, DGN, and the DGND, and really forming not just a working relationship, but personal relationship and a balance to open up and welcome ideas, to make it very clear to people. While I have ideas, I always know that we will get a better result if all of us share. And everybody puts a part of what becomes the final result and how we carry that through from year to year. So as we would be focusing, for instance, in putting a program together for, my year, it's really the district's year, I would always say, and then what will be the next step we take in the following year? Because, I see the job as the district governor in terms of the district as not only succeeding in that year, but making sure you have prepared the district for a welcoming of the next administration and already an understanding of how they're going to step in and build upon what they created in this year and take it up a notch. Every year should be better than the year before.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that, because I do believe that, and we've watched that happen, and look forward to hearing from our new district governor how she will attach her vision to administration, obviously, to what you've done, which has also been attached to some of the others. So great job, in that arena. You had a list, and I'm sure you did, of priorities for your year. Let's kind of walk through some of those. What would you say your priorities were, and were they successful?
Well, the first one is to stop calling things training and to call it leadership development. And so having you involved in our leadership development program as our head was critical. And a part of that was also to demonstrate the existing diversity already in our district that unfortunately too many of our people kind of didn't appreciate, as a step to the widening introduction of that across our district. The second thing is really membership, but understanding membership in 2 ways. It's not just going out there and grabbing anybody. It's first and foremost internally looking at your club and determining, who are you? What's the value you present? And having to consider that before you go out and make that introduction and invitation for people to come.
PG Pat, I want you to hold that thought, because we want to come back and talk more about that and how it connects to the future of the district. Okay. We're going to take a short break and be right back and talk more with Pat Borowski, past district governor of 7610 Virginia, for the 2021-22 Rotary year. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the Rotary Times. We're here talking with Pat Borowski, past district governor of District 7610 Virginia. PDG Pat, talk about, or I guess I want to say talk more about membership. I know that was a huge priority of yours this year.
And it had to be. I mean, I picked up where District Governor Harry left off, because that was certainly an enunciated focus of his administration. But we lost a lot of members. But I additionally went to the background of where are we on membership, not just the numbers, but where are we in terms of age groups, et cetera. And I laid those facts before the club. Many of those clubs had never heard or understood. And one key one is that we are a very age, weight heavy district. In the 90s, the beginning in the 90s, and prior to that, this district had been a juggernaut of membership development, club development, and somewhere around 2000, they started into retain, retain, retain +1. That's 30 years of that. And the reality is then you have people who join in their 30s, in their 40s back then, who are now in their late 60s, 70s, 80s, and didn't appreciate the need to replenish themselves. And so I think helping clubs understand those realities and to prepare and understand that we did not get here all at once, and we are going to get out of this and get back to our regrowth patterns over time. And that's where that 3-year strategic plan becomes so important, because then you know, how do I start it this year? How do I build upon it the following year, etc.
And you're right about some of those how-tos and those things we have to pay attention
Absolutely.
to. And I think that the pandemic helped us to focus on that as well. Of course, under your leadership in putting together the committee that went out and really talks to clubs and presidents. I know in my club, we now pay more attention to that than we have in past years. So thank you for that. A couple of summers ago, RI put out a statement, and I will read the statement to you. Rotary has no tolerance for racism in any form. Promoting respect, celebrating diversity and equity and inclusion, and demanding equitable leadership is working to our advantage as we continue to advance peace as a central tenet of our work.
Yeah.
How did your administration respond to that mandate?
Well, I think there's basically 3 things. The number one thing is in better appreciating that statement, we have to stand back and remember Rotary is a global community, and we do have room for improvement in our district, but in some countries that is a very exotic and challenging statement. So we have to take that into consideration. The second thing was immediately we appointed a diversity chair. It had been existing, but in a separate committee by itself. And for my purposes, I felt it was important to integrate that within the context of our membership program, which again is not just about pulling members in. It's also about that introspectiveness within the club as to what are you inviting people into, and taking a look at yourself in that, are there things you have to change? You know, we form habits. I think one of the programs, we did it here and we did it for this Rotary Times, and we did it in the district, was the unconscious bias discussion. You know, people don't appreciate a really generic, simple perspective, and Pamela Montgomery, who was our chair, brought this up. They had to find a new place to meet. Why? Because the place they were in had a very heavy din, a lot of background noise, and they have an older club, and the older members couldn't hear. But if you hear, you don't appreciate how difficult that is. And so that was one reason why they had to change their meeting space. You know, we had in the beginning, before I took office, we had a lot of clubs that met in non-ADA compliant facilities. Now, you've got an older population. I mean, what are you saying to your members? Sorry, you know, if you're not ambulatory, don't bother coming anymore. So if we have unconscious, it's not even a bias, it's a lack of recognition because we're not experiencing it on those matters, then we have to appreciate there's probably a lot of other things we're not really fully aware of, and that we have to change our practices. So it begins with, how do we need to change internally? What do we need to learn about? I think the program we did at the very end of Harry Henderson's year, learning about challenging racism was an excellent program. And again, it's not saying that people are fundamentally per se racist. It's understanding how we kind of get comfortable in the people that we know and the way that we've acted, which may or may not work for a younger community, a more diverse community, and being inclusive in that. So looking at that, the things you have to change, and then what is the value then that you bring to the community? And and also, what value are you going to give the members that are going to join you? And then what is your expectation of them? The club has to be clear on that. They have to be honest about it. And thirdly, there's got to be a pretty common thread so that people go, oh, okay, you're all singing the same song.
And I know our club is looking at equity.
You
know, it's one thing for us to want to invite people in, but we have to look at our structures for dues.
Dues, right.
You know,
costs.
And those things that keep people out here instead of allowing them to, you know, to come in.
Right.
So you're right. We do look at this year. We've been asked to really look at our brochures.
Right.
You know, what do they say? What messages communicate? We know pictures tell a story.
Right.
So we look at what messages are being communicated as a result of the work that you've done with the clubs and the club leaders throughout the year. That's been huge.
Absolutely.
So I look forward to seeing that go forward. Since the onset of the pandemic, how has the job of district governor changed for you?
Well, I think the job of district governor has, you really need a lot more organizational expertise, understanding what constitutes and comprises successful organizations. What are the ABCs of putting those together? And then being able to have flexibility with sort of different formulas regarding that. Because look, I always say every club they're not going to be the same. It's like my theory of eyebrows. They don't have to look identical, but they got to look closely related, okay? So, and that's a lot more that has been required of district governors than in past years. The second issue is what Rotary is really asking of us. Starting this year, Rotary requires the district governor to do a written assessment of every single club and an evaluation. And the principal reason for that is RI wants to know and wants districts to work towards every single club being functioning.
Okay.
And that means that they at least comply with the fundamental expectations and requirements that the Rotary International is making of them, which has been brand new this year.
Wow.
So that is a lot.
I can't wait to learn more about that. Yeah. The District Foundation, we know, is critical to the success of the programs. How did we do well this year?
Well, yes, we are, you know, I always say the generosity of our Rotarians never surprised me, but oh my God, does it humble me.
Yeah.
It really does. And our people really understand the special mission of Rotary and the giving to make the Rotary Foundation one of our primary objectives, our primary charity. How do we do? Real quick. We launched a 6-week special campaign to give donations to Rotary's disaster fund for the Ukrainian humanitarian response. In 6 weeks, this district raised $150,000.
Wow.
And in addition to that, raised over $50,000 for Shelter Box special campaign for the Ukrainian relief. And for those of us that have family and friends in the middle of that conflict.
Yeah, I know.
It is extraordinary. Now, in addition to that, and separate and apart from that, our Rotarians in May reached $1 million of contributions this year.
There we go.
Yeah, bravo to all our Rotarians.
Your leadership, and for that we thank you. And today, that's your legacy right there. I was going to ask you to end on your legacy, and that's your legacy right there. So thank you, PD Pat, for coming in. And we hope you'll come back again, which I know you will, because you're our co-host, and we'll hear a lot more from you a little later. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for the opportunity.
Always. Funding for this program is made possible by the generosity of Rotary District 7610, Virginia. For the Rotary Times program, I am your host, Dr. Deborah Jackson from the Rotary Club of McLean, Virginia. You are welcome to join us at a Rotary Club in your area for either breakfast, lunch, dinner, or a service project. You can find a club near you by looking us up on the internet. Many clubs are conducting meetings virtually or with some form of hybrid approach. You just need to look us up for details. Remember, our time is your time, and it's always time well spent. Please join us for our next program as we continue to celebrate Rotary's 117 years of service above self.